This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Today, Russia agrees to a multinational prisoner swap. At least 13 people have died in protests in Nigeria, and a peace deal is brokered between the Congolese army and a Rwanda-backed rebel group. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Friday the 2nd of August 2024. The US and Russia have completed their biggest prisoner exchange since the Cold War, with 16 moving from Russia to the West and 8 moving to Russia from the West. The White House said it negotiated the trade with Russia, Germany and 3 other countries, and had worked on the deal in secrecy for more than a year. The actual exchange took place at Ankara Airport in Turkey. Among those returned to the US on Thursday were Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, former US Marine Paul Whelan, both jailed for alleged espionage, as well as Russian-American journalist Alsu Kumasheva, and Russian-British dissident and political activist Vladimir Kara-Murza. They were greeted by US President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris after stepping off a plane at Joint Air Base Andrews in Maryland, to the cheers and whoops of the media. US President Joe Biden called the deal a feat of diplomacy and friendship and praised Washington's allies for their bold and brave decisions. The prisoner swap is a major achievement, not just because of its scale, but also because it involved so many countries, not just the United States and Russia. Germany, Poland, Slovenia and Norway all released prisoners back to Russia. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz reluctantly agreed to release Vadim Krasikov, a Russian serving a life sentence in Germany for the murder of Chechen rebel commander Zalamkhan Kangoshvili in a Berlin park in 2019. Russia also received Roman Selezhnev, who was found guilty of running a hacking scheme in 2017 that caused $169 million in damages. Putin also met the released prisoners on the runway in Moscow, saying they would receive state awards. The Wall Street Journal's editor-in-chief wrote that they were celebrating the release of Evan Gershkovich, but added that we know the US government is keenly aware, as are we, that the only way to prevent a quickening cycle of arresting innocent people as pawns in cynical geopolitical games is to remove the incentive for Russia and other nations that pursue the same detestable practice. There's more on the way, but remember to subscribe and ring the bell for more daily briefing on Monday. Plus, if you want to support the channel like Lord Offal, then consider joining the new TLDR membership program for just $1.99. At least 13 people have reportedly been killed in clashes between protesters and police after riots broke out across Nigeria. They took place on the first day of a week-long nationwide protest against the cost of living crisis and as part of the #EndBadGovernance movement. The demonstrations follow soaring inflation and a hike in everyday goods prices due to policy changes, especially the removal of a popular but controversial fuel subsidy, which squeezed more people out of Nigeria's middle class and spurred youth groups to act. Protesters are now calling for the reinstatement of gas and electricity subsidies scrapped by President Bola Tinubu's government. For weeks, Nigeria has been fearing mass riots similar to those seen in Kenya last month, where youth groups led protests against government tax rises, which started peacefully but turned violent. As a result, security personnel and armoured trucks have been deployed in the Nigerian capital Abuja, Lagos and other cities and towns across the country. A 24-hour curfew has also been imposed in the northern state of Kano, after government and public properties were looted. Demonstrations are expected to continue on Friday, with organisers saying earlier this week that action against the government would last for 10 days. Now over to Central Africa, where after 2.5 years of fighting and several broken peace agreements between the Congolese army and the Rwandan-backed M23 rebels, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda have agreed to a temporary ceasefire in the North Kivu province. The DRC crisis began as a result of a series of post-colonial battles for power after independence from Belgium in 1960. Instability was further intensified by ethnic tension and the eventual genocide in neighbouring Rwanda, which caused hundreds of thousands of both Tutsis and Hutus to flee to the DRC. Tensions between Congolese tribes, Rwandan emigrants, multiple militias operating on all sides, and troops led to 2 wars in the DRC between 1996 and 2003. Ever since, the arming and counter-arming of rebel militias by the Congolese government and foreign actors means that there are now between 120 and 140 rebel groups operating in the DRC. The DRC's mineral-rich North Kivu province, which contains major deposits of copper, gold and diamonds, has been racked for some 30 years by fighting between the groups. More recently, the most active armed groups at the moment are the Codeco, ADF and the Rwandan-backed M23. The M23 rebels launched an offensive in the mineral-rich DRC at the end of 2021. Since then, the rebels have seized large swathes of territory in an effort to gain a share of North Kivu's minerals. Angola mediated the latest peace deal, which will come into effect at midnight on Sunday. However, analysts remain sceptical, because previous truces inked by all involved were never respected for more than a few weeks. As an activist living in North Kivu puts it, there are still papers that are signed, but they continue the war and the population continues to die every day. This week, the UK Labour government has offered junior doctors a new pay settlement in an attempt to end the ongoing strikes that are causing disruption to the overall efficiency of the NHS. The government has offered junior doctors a pay rise of 22%, which will spread over 2 years, something that was recommended by the independent review bodies. Previously, junior doctors had been attempting to achieve a 35% pay rise, something that would, after a decade and a half of below-inflation pay rises, bump their pay back up to what it was 15 years ago. The question now is whether the junior doctors agree to the pay package and call off future strikes. The government is clearly trying to avoid another set of strikes that would only serve to lengthen the already long NHS waiting list. Since March last year, junior doctors have taken industrial action 11 times over their pay. However, the government has additionally agreed to a 5 to 6% pay rise for other public sector workers, meaning that if the junior doctors' pay rise is also agreed to, the total bill will come to £9.4 billion. And finally, in some uplifting news, conservationists have recorded a 250% increase in tiger numbers in Thailand's Western Forest Complex, or WEFCOM, over the past 15 years. In a region where tigers are under pressure from poachers and habitat destruction, the thriving tiger populations in WEFCOM is good news. The study by Thailand's Department of National Parks and the Wildlife Conservation Society credits the success to better enforcement against illegal activities that result in habitat destruction, and better monitoring efforts to understand and track the tigers. It's not just good news for tigers though. As the area's apex predator, their populations signal the overall health of the ecosystem. And a companion study found that species including deer and wild cattle had also seen their numbers increase. Be sure to keep an eye on this story as it evolves, as much like every area of our lives, this is likely to progress quickly. In fact, if you're feeling left behind by the news cycle and fast developments in AI and tech, you'll want to check out Brilliant. Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data analysis, programming, and AI. Learning a little every day is one of the most important things you can do, both for personal and professional growth. Brilliant helps you build real knowledge in minutes a day, with fun lessons you can do whenever you have time. It's the opposite of mindless scrolling and truly helps you to learn quickly, kind of like TLDR. One course I've found to be particularly interesting was their course on large language models. We hear a lot about AI and large language models in the news, but Brilliant helped me actually get hands-on with real language models as you explore how they build vocabulary, choose their next word, and more. They also helped me grasp the importance of training data by comparing models trained on Taylor Swift lyrics to models trained on a cookbook or big text terms and conditions. If you want to learn more and understand the world around you better, whether that's in order to get a job in AI or just to understand what everyone's talking about, you can try everything that Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days. Visit brilliant.org/TLDR or click on the link in the description. Plus, you'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thanks for watching and to Brilliant for sponsoring this video.